As for the pro wrestling news this week, a bunch of stuff came out, which is really interesting. One of the things was CM Punk after the All Out, after one of the recent pay-per-views. I think it was All Out. I don't think it was Full Gear. May have been Full Gear. I'm not sure. Anyway, CM Punk had said that he made several comments about the wrestling audience and talked about he wasn't sure that most of the people that were watching AEW were people that came over from WWE. He thinks a lot of them were people who used to watch WWE back when he was around. So it's not the current WWE fans who came over to AEW. And he didn't talk about the casual fans, which is something I have talked about for probably about 3 or 4 years now, on and off. And CM Punk said something, he echoed something that I have said many times before, is that this casual fan thing and all of the wrestling, I'm sorry, I'm going to use a pejorative, but all of the wrestling nerds who go on and on and on and on about, they need to get casual fans, and WWE needs to get casual fans, and AEW is failing because they're not getting casual fans. There aren't any casual fans. There are no more casual fans. They don't exist. I've said that for years. Casual, and CM Punk just said it too. He doesn't think casual fans exist anymore. I don't think there are casual wrestling fans anymore. I think they're, well, not to the extent that it's going to move a needle. I mean, you're always going to get the, the people who tune in who are old school fans, and, if they want to see Hulk Hogan do something silly on Raw or whatever, they're going to tune in for that. But as far as people who, casually watch wrestling, I don't really think that's much of a thing anymore, to the tune of like 1 million people. So I think your casual fans today are, and I've said this many times before, it's the roommates, it's the best friends, it's the girlfriends or boyfriends, it's the husbands or wives, the daughters and sons, the mothers and fathers, the people that are associated with the hardcore wrestling fan. So the hardcore wrestling fan will watch every Monday or Wednesday or Friday or Thursday or Tuesday or whatever it is in every pay-per-view and go to the shows, and their roommates or friends or family will watch with them. And I know this personally from somebody I know in my real life, who, oddly enough, her husband looks just like the Big Show, and he's like 6'9", so it's kind of funny. But she used to watch wrestling. She used to watch WWE when she used to live with her former roommate, who was a hardcore fan. So she knew about it, and we talk about it every once in a while. But once she moved out from the former roommate, she hasn't watched wrestling since. That's a casual fan. And the problem with the casual fan is that you're not turning them into a hardcore fan, and a lot of that rests on the shoulders of WWE Creative. But, it's just a different time and a different era we're in. And I think all the people, and I've been saying this for years, all the people worrying about casual fan stuff are worrying about a lot of nothing. Because everything is so siloed. The way the entertainment world is now, everything is so siloed. You got streaming services geared particularly to what you want to watch. Your Netflix stream is geared, and the suggested videos are geared to what you want to watch. Same thing with podcasts, same thing with YouTube, same thing with Twitter. The information is everything is curated, and it's curated based off of what you usually watch. So if you usually watch wrestling, then you're going to get thrown a lot of wrestling stuff. You're going to kind of be siloed into being a hardcore fan, whether you like it or not. And if you're not interested in that stuff, you'll stop watching it, and then you won't see any more of it. And, for me as a cord cutter, that's definitely a thing. Like, there's so many I don't watch a tremendous amount of television. I watch, maybe 4 or 5 hours of wrestling a week. And then there's a Netflix show. Like right now I'm watching Manifest on Netflix, and I just started watching Squid Game. And, a couple other things here and there. The Walking Dead is the only, really on-air show that I watch on a weekly basis, and even that was just fairly recently. But most of what I watch is YouTube, and I'm watching financial videos and stuff. I watch a lot of stuff that people will find boring because most of it is educational. It's entertaining to me, but I'm always learning something, learning how to do woodworking, or learning how to do electrical, or learning how to code a new language, or learning about cryptocurrency, or I find that to be much more worth my time. And the people I know who watch TV, they have a certain amount of certain set of shows that they watch, and they're never exposed to anything else. So this casual fan thing, I've said for years, it's a bunch of BS. That it's again, like the ratings, it's an old paradigm to measure wrestling companies by. I think you measure it by the amount of money the companies make and what they're able to draw in. And I think the same thing goes right now, and CM Punk is saying the same thing, and I think the attitude is going to shift. But unfortunately, some of these wrestling sweaties, they, again, not wrestling fans. I always make a distinction. There are wrestling fans who are just normal, cool people who enjoy watching wrestling for the athleticism, the storylines, the spectacle, whatever. And then there's the sweaties who think they know everything, but all of their information is based on outdated paradigms, like the casual fan thing. So, yeah, I agree with CM Punk, because CM Punk said something I've been saying for a long time. Because that's how Scorpios born on October 26th think. That's how we do. Something else from AEW, though, is Kenny by God Omega, after that title defense against Hangman Page, where he dropped the AEW World Championship after a near 1-year run as AEW champion, and burning the candle at both ends there. We saw on Dynamite, and it's been long suspected that he would be taking time off. Omega's got a lot of injuries. His body's pretty banged up. He really has been going, especially the last year, he's been going 1,000%, wrestling in Mexico, wrestling across the states. He even went to Japan for a couple of things here and there. He's got so many injuries. There was a video a couple months ago where he was actually here in my hometown of Baltimore, getting his body work done, where we found out where the shebang, that whole thing where he does the trigger finger across his throat and then goes bang when he makes his ring entrance. That's where it came from a health clinic here in Baltimore, Maryland, where he's been getting some work done, some stem cell work done. He's got a busted up shoulder. I saw in a recent interview, there's a chiropractic thing that's online right now. You might want to check that out because he's pretty messed up. And he's been talking about having vertigo since 2018. And once I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I remember him talking about that back when he was still in New Japan. I think it was around the New Japan Cup or sometime, not the New Japan Cup. It was around the G1, I think, in 2018. Somewhere around there. I remember on BTE or somewhere he had an interview where or something he said he had vertigo. And he's had vertigo for that long. Since 2018. Jeez. Omega has banged his body up for his own glory and for the enjoyment of his fans and for building AEW. And a guy has done amazing work. He definitely deserves to be applauded. He is going to be considered one of the best wrestlers of all time. That's without question to anybody with a brain. It doesn't take much to see that. The guy did what he wanted to do. He changed the wrestling world. I mean, I think at this point in time, now we've seen him have a proper title run, because I don't think his IWGP World Championship run was a proper title run. We've seen him have a proper title run now. I think he did what he set out to do 5 years ago when he was talking about changing the world. He changed the world of wrestling. Absolutely did. Absolutely did. And he deserves all the props for it. Hopefully, he's going to have surgery on multiple parts of his body from what we hear. Hopefully the surgeries go well, his rehab goes well, and he takes his time to get back. I think, too, it kind of explains a lot of the way his body has changed. You see, he's very top heavy now. He's a little kind of disproportioned the way he looks now compared to the way he looked when we watched him in New Japan. He was a lot sleeker back then. He's very bulked up now. And I think it's him having to get the strength to compensate for all the injuries to do the moves that he does. But I think all these injuries have affected the way he performs. And a lot of people said, well, he's not the same Kenny Omega he was in New Japan. And yeah, because of what he did in New Japan and because of what he's done in AEW, his body's pretty banged up. You can't do all the stuff as crisply as you did then when you're dealing with chronic pain and about 18 different points in your body. So, I for one, as one of the people who was really on the Kenny Omega train from 2016 up to now when he started this run. I hope he gets better, and it's been a fun 5 years following this guy as intensely as I have. My YouTube channel blew up because of videos I did about him, so I have a lot of respect for and admiration for the wrestler known as Kenny Omega. Tyson, what was his name? What is his name? Tyson something or other? Tyson Smith. Hopefully he gets better, and hopefully the surgeries go well. So best wishes to him. Cody, on the other hand, is having his own problem. So Cody apparently left Twitter. I haven't dived into the story too much. I saw it the other day. I think Russell Talk did a video, and I watched like 2 seconds of it. But like, Cody apparently left Twitter. I don't know. See, this Cody thing, either this Cody thing is the biggest work in wrestling history, or this dude really feels the way he does. And if Cody really feels the way that it looks like he does, that he doesn't understand why the fans are booing him and why he should be turning a heel, or should at least be leaning into turning heel, then he's almost as out of touch as Vince McMahon is. Not quite there, but he's getting there in the out of touch category. But part of me kind of thinks that even on the roads to the top TV show, which is supposed to be a reality show, I think Cody's leaning into it. I think some of this stuff is a work. It has to be. I can't believe he's that obtuse, but he's played that character before. But I don't know. I want to see what happens with it all. They're going to have to do something with him. They can't keep going the way he is. He's going to turn into the AEW's version of John Cena if he keeps doing this stuff and acting like he's not the heel. But already we're seeing little hints and clues that they're aware and that they're addressing it. So who knows? We'll just see what happens with that in the future. AEW and WWE have other issues, though, collectively. And again, this is back to the casual fan thing and pro wrestling and everything else. But ticket sales are down. Even though I do believe that Full Gear was a sellout by day of, it was a sellout. There wasn't a lot of scalping tickets. We're far from the days a couple years ago where every AEW event sold out and the tickets were all bought up by scalpers and all that kind of craziness. Now they're operating normally, and they're still selling out a lot of shows. They're still, Dynamite. There was a big crowd for Dynamite. They're sold out in Chicago next week. Chicago is one of their big venues. They're basically a Chicago and Jacksonville based wrestling organization. I wish they'd come back to the Baltimore, D.C. area. They were around. They were down in Virginia. Now they're skipping over us and heading elsewhere. Thank you, Chris Cruz, for that. I'm always going to blame Chris Cruz for that because of what happened at Full Gear 2019, which I also found out too was one of the lowest pay-per-view buys for AEW was that one at the Baltimore Arena, which is really weird, but it is what it is. But the whole of the wrestling industry, not just AEW, WWE too, they're having a lot of trouble selling tickets for Survivor Series, which is shocking. Well, it's kind of shocking to me, but it's also not very shocking to me because, again, I don't watch WWE weekly TV, but I keep my ear. And obviously when I log into YouTube, I see, I always get thrown videos and suggested videos about what's going on in WWE. And I look at the thumbnails and I might watch a couple of them, but I haven't heard much of anything about Survivor Series this year. Not really much of anything. The last time I was excited for Survivor Series was a couple of years ago when they had put NXT in it. That was a cool Survivor Series. I think that might have been, and then a couple of ones they had the year before that. I remember there was the one where Brock and Bryan Danielson fought each other. The one where Brock and AJ Styles fought each other. I don't know. Is it Lashley? It's not Lashley. He's not the champion. Is it Big E and Roman? I guess it's Big E and Roman as the champion versus champion match this year at Survivor Series, but I haven't been feeling any buzz for Survivor Series this year. I haven't seen anybody really talking about it that much. And even the videos, the video I'm looking at right now on my YouTube channel actually says worst build ever for the Survivor Series. So, and that's from Meltzer's channel. So, hey, whatever. But the ticket sales are down. People are worried about the WrestleMania ticket sales. WrestleMania is like half a year away. I'm not even worried about that. What I'm more concerned about is the Wrestle Kingdom ticket sales and whether or not New Japan, 3 nights of Wrestle Kingdom, 3 dome shows. I don't know, man. But again, I don't think they really care because they can always rely on, COVID restrictions. So yeah, there's 5,000 people at the Tokyo Dome, but it's not because of us, not because of the booking. It's because of the COVID restrictions. Well, that excuse isn't going to last much longer. Again, I am hoping by Wrestle Kingdom we get an announcement that 2022 they're going to go back to normal New Japan crowds. But again, I'm very skeptical about how ticket sales are going to go for New Japan. There's some damage that has been done through the pandemic era, not only because of the pandemic, but because of the booking and NJPW. So I'm very concerned about what happens when the pandemic restrictions are being lifted. We're already seeing some of this stuff's happening in Japan right now. They're lifting some of the restrictions. So when they go back to, okay, you can have full capacity crowds and they can make noise. That first show that after they had made that announcement that they're doing that again, that's going to be a very telling show. Good news for them is that they drew 1,600 plus for the show that they had on the same night as AEW's Full Gear show. So that was pretty cool. And it was for a show with minimal, not the full roster, but you had Okada against Buddy Matthews, formerly known as Buddy Murphy. You had Moose and Juice Robinson. You had Tomohiro Ishii against Jay White. So you had a pretty stacked card. Well, Ospreay was on the card as well. So it was enough to draw. I'm actually impressed that they drew that much, that they drew over 1,000 people for a show that was basically going up against the hottest wrestling company in North America right now. So kudos to New Japan. Has still got some largesse over here in the States, and there still are some solid New Japan fans in the States, which is a good sign. The Forbidden Door is still open. Tomohiro Ishii and Rocky Romero were on AEW Dynamite this past week, and finally, it looks like we're finally getting some cross-promotion over, as Christopher Daniels will be on a New Japan Strong show. So there is some final swinging the other way at the door, even though, I love Christopher Daniels, but, we're not talking about CM Punk or Bryan Danielson or Malachi Black or the Bucks going back or Hangman going back, but it's a start. And the same thing goes on the other side. New Japan, until Ishii and Suzuki showed up the past couple of months, most of the guys they got the third generation guys, and they got some young lions. So, and Rocky Romero, who's a promoter. So it now looks like they're gearing up for the Forbidden Door to be more open. And Jim Ross is continually talking about Kazuchika Okada. So I don't know the point of bringing Okada into AEW though is to see the 5th match with him and Kenny Omega. But Kenny Omega is going to be out for the next 3-4 months at least. So I don't know if you bring Okada in now, unless it's there's other dream matches there. Bryan Danielson and Okada would be awesome. But I think there's a way you could do that to lead up to it. But I definitely want to see that. And of course, I think the one that everybody's really hoping for, both of them are out right now and healing up. Kota Ibushi with a separated shoulder, and Kenny Omega, maybe they're going to talk while they're both out with injuries and commiserate over, how to come up with a storyline for how they're going to do that. How they're going to do the ultimate Forbidden Door crossover, I believe, for a lot of people is the Golden Lovers reunion again. It worked gangbusters when they did it a couple years ago in New Japan. It was like one of the coolest things I'd ever seen in wrestling. And I'm not very woke or anything like that, but just, it was so unique. It's something that was never done before, and it was genuine and remarkable, and I loved the whole storyline about the Golden Lovers reuniting. I thought it was a cool storyline that they never quite finished in New Japan. So hopefully now, which should just be like the third time they'll like separate and come back together again. Hopefully they're planning something pretty cool in the future. Let's see what they can do with that.